Good evening. I am Emmy Velarde, your moderator. I am a journalist and a student of Brahma Kumaris for 31 years now. We are gathered tonight for a very auspicious reason. Can anyone guess what that is? Well, we have come together because we are the ones who do not see these disorienting changes that are taking place around us and all over the world as a dead end. And where it might be said that the natural reaction to these times of acute insecurities is to find a way out of it, we are the ones who are likely to consider finding a way above the situation. And who are we? That would be you, our guests, and our audience, our friends, and us, your hosts, Brahma Kumaris Philippines. Brahma Kumaris is a United Nations Peace Messenger awardee. In the Philippines, this spiritual university has done much service in over 30 years. We are a non sectarian, non stock, non profit organization. We welcome everyone from all walks, races, and religions. Through meditation courses, we seek to help people rediscover their innate goodness. And thus, we advocate spiritual awareness, attitudes, and behaviors. The courses and relevant programs, such as this one tonight, are offered in 8,000 centers across 130 countries. Our main campus and headquarters are located in Mount Abu, Rajasthan, India. We have a general consultative status with the UNESCO. That's the United Nations Economic and Social Council, and also with the UNICEF, that's the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. Brahma Kumaris is also affiliated to the United Nations Department of Information. And now, by way of preparing to participate in this timely exchange, let us create room in our minds through silence. Let us sit comfortably and focus on this image of light. We are called to listen in times of deafening noise. To listen to one another as brother and sister souls. For only then can we hear the voice of the one who calls us with love. Om Shanti. Tonight's program concludes this month's series of Thursday programs with the theme Increasing Your Power of Thought During These Critical Times. So all these 3 previous programs have been aired, streamed, and tonight we have the last one, whose title is Supreme Thinking, quite appropriately. Thank you. And welcome. 13,403 kilometers. That's the distance between Manila and Halifax in Nova Scotia, Canada. And that's where our very special resource person lives and coordinates Brahma Kumari's activities in Atlantic Canada. No matter that she could not fly down, she is 100% here tonight in all the ways that matter most. Judy Johnson is an organization and leadership development consultant, an author and facilitator, and has practiced Raja Yoga meditation with the Brahma Kumaris for 23 years. She has been in the consulting profession for 40 years. She has managed development programs with young people in Latin America and Asia and facilitated intercultural briefings on behalf of the Canadian government for diplomats and professionals working overseas. Currently, she assists organizations in moving beyond conflict and in creating vibrant learning communities. She's been busy in the Brahma Kumaris community as well. She was part of its co-creating harmony team. She facilitated the International Youth Forum for 6 years and co-founded Choose, Change, and Become, whose aim was to strengthen inner leadership for the youth of the world. In Nova Scotia, she co-founded Peace Halifax, a full-day peace festival for that provincial capital city. She has 5 published books, all described as practical explorations of one's inner landscape. And might I add, all of them are intriguingly titled 7 Secrets of the Universe, Beautiful Thoughts, A to Z, Spiritual Literacy, Living as Art, and Return to the Source, the God Experience. The photograph that you are looking at right now is of our sister Judy speaking to an interfaith group at the Center for Spiritual Learning in Tagaytay City, where she has likewise conducted BK retreats, seminars, and workshops. That is to say, this is not her first time with a local audience. She has guested in programs from Albay in southern Luzon to Tagum in southern Mindanao. We, who have previously worked with her, are more than glad to have her back. She has agreed to take questions after her talk, by the way. So right now, at last, friends, please welcome Judy Johnson.
Om Shanti. Good evening. Thank you, Emmy, for such a warm welcome. I feel like I'm there already. It's wonderful.
Oh, you are.
I am. It's true. I so enjoyed my time in Philippines. And coming back today, although it's early morning here and we're just beginning, and I know it's end of day for you, what a great way to start my day is feeling that I'm with you in the Philippines. I've watched your online programming and it's remarkable. What a wonderful job you're doing there. So thank you to the whole team who organized this and invited me. I feel very honored.
As we are.
And I love the topic. So I'm going to, shall I just begin?
Yes.
I've had some fun churning this and thinking about this over the last week. So I thought we might begin actually with a prayer. So I'm going to ask you to put your hands together. And if you can, as you're doing it, one hand, think that this is me, the soul, and the other hand, think that this is God. I'd like you very intentionally to bring your two hands together and feel them join in front of your body and in front of your face. I'd like you to just notice how the fingers are all pointing upwards to God. And I'd like you to notice how your thumb is close to your heart if you pull your two thumbs back. So we're both in the ancient Namaste pose from India, which means the highest in me bows to the highest in you. And we are in a traditional prayer pose. So if you can just for a moment hold the awareness of you, the soul, meeting God. Beautiful way to begin our evening. And if you can, as you take your hands apart, I'd like you to take them, actually, before you take them apart, if you can press your fingers, really press your fingers almost so that your elbows come out a little bit and feel the pressure of your fingers and your thumbs pushing against each other. This is an Ayurvedic healing pose because the reflex points on all fingers are pressing against each other. So the whole body is benefiting. This little extra pressure that I want you to put now is so that in a moment, just release the pressure. Very, very gently, I'll ask you to pull your hands apart, but oh so gently, you can almost feel the flesh still holding and then releasing. I'd like you just to release your hands as we begin and just feel, be very aware of that invisible line connecting the hands that is not physically present anymore, but you remember it. And then I just like you to hold your palms open like this. And just check the sensation in the palms of your hand. What does it feel like? I know mine feel a little bit warm, and they also feel a little exposed, a little vulnerable. I'm going to say this is a really great starting point for receiving supreme power. Is an open and vulnerable stance inside myself. And also the memory of what it feels like to be together. How strong and beautiful. So, namaste, Om Shanti, welcome. Thank you for being here with me today. I'm really looking forward to this. I'll share my screen now because I've been thinking a lot about supreme thinking. And, I came to the Brahma Kumaris 23 years ago, and I've loved every minute of it, including tough times. I've loved every minute of it because I've been learning so much. And for me, the joy of this particular meditation path is to discover supreme thinking. I can't think of anything more interesting to me than supreme thinking. So I love the title of this, and I really feel it's important and urgent, especially now at these times. So thinking a bit about this, here's our starting pose, that eternal, and it works in all traditions really, starting point for a connection to the supreme thinking. But I'll start with an idea that we have here at the Brahma Kumaris, that the soul is lit all the time. And I'm using a light bulb as an example, that the soul is lit and we're just light, as is the divine. And yet, because of our journey through life, we've accumulated a bit of rust, shall we say. And that rust looks a bit like this. It comes in the form of every experience I've ever had has it's sort of shaped the way I look out at the world. And so I'm sort of layered with, I'm going to call these lenses. So I look out at the world now through these lenses, and as you can see, there's many layers of them here. And each lens has been shaped by my previous experiences. And for me, this meditation journey has really been about removing the different lenses so that I can get to supreme thinking myself. I can connect with that. And I'm just going to name a number of the lenses that are actually thought systems. They're ways of thinking. And each one of these is like a lens through which I look out at my world. One of them, very common, and especially I was a social activist for years. I consider myself a spiritual activist now. But, in the social activist world, I really developed a lens, a thinking process, a way of thinking that is very much affected by or shaped by thoughts of justice. Who is right? Who is wrong? So I look at a situation and very much looking through the justice lens, this is how I see, this is how I think. So slowly for me, I've noticed that this particular lens has come off. I don't look at the world so much this way anymore because I'm being influenced by supreme thinking in my meditation. Second lens, very many people look at this. I have not actually looked at situations like this, but many people I know look at the world through a business lens. What's the deal to be made here? Or what's the gain from this situation? And again, it can distort the true view of what's going on because it's just a lens. And as I begin to meditate, I start to see my lenses. Yesterday, I saw a lens I had no clue I had. I think, wow, even this far along, I discover another lens. So let's just call this one the business lens. And as I go through this meditation, getting closer and closer to my core self, that one disappears. Poof, gone. Another lens, the problem-solving lens. I think lots of us look at situations through this lens. In other words, our thinking process is what's the problem, what needs to be fixed. So I can look at life as a series of problems. I can look at any situation this way. It just describes a type of thinking. And again, as I get closer and closer, I sort of clean off the rust that's on the soul. That particular lens, as seen here as the purple sort of coating over the soul, that lens disappears. Oh, lovely. Then let's say we get closer to the core and we go, oh, there's a little bit of a blame lens. I know that lots of my friends and sister and brother meditators have encountered this lens. It's a subtle blame lens. It can be like a little resentment or a little woe is me. How come I have to do this? But actually named openly, it would be called a blame lens. So who's to blame? I'm not to blame. Two sides of that coin, but say the blame lens is just another lens through which our thinking is sort of shaped or molded or distorted. And again, when that comes off, oh, I get closer and closer to seeing with clarity. The ego lens, they say this is going to be one of the last to go for all of us because ego is so sneaky and creeps. It sort of twists itself around the soul in such a way that it begins to feel like it is me. And that's why it's so hard to identify. But it's just a lens, the ego lens. And the ego lens sort of tends to think this way: what's in it for me? How do I protect my reputation? The ego lens, when looking at the world through an ego lens, I will feel insulted. I'm susceptible to praise and defamation. And again, it's just a lens, but it shapes how I think. And when that lens goes, oh, look. So what could be the last one there? The last lens that separates me from clear thinking, and I'm going to suggest tonight from supreme, as being as close as I can to supreme thinking. And I know no one can answer because we're on Facebook, but it's a rhetoric question. What could be this last lens? And the BKs, I think regular students will know this is just body consciousness. The subtlety, so connected to ego, but even in my final moments, thinking that I am my body, and that somehow my security lies in the physical. So tonight's not really about all the lenses, but I wanted to give a bit of a preamble. When this lens goes, poof, there I am, the soul, back to myself, shining, sparkling, nothing interfering with absolute clarity. Nothing infesting or shaping or contorting or distorting my thinking. And at that moment, our understanding here is that I will be closest to supreme thinking. So all those layers gone. Now, every lens has its benefit and limitation, and that's why we've developed them. No question, no problem. But this evening's talk, and I think your series this month, has been to explore the supreme lens. What is supreme thinking really about? And how interesting as a meditator it is to get closer and closer and closer to that way of thinking, supreme thinking, which means I need to adopt a supreme lens. And the supreme lens is what? It's really just an ocean of peace. Just peace colors everything I look at, colors every thought I have. It's just crystal clear, clarity like a diamond. And it's, of course, love. So supreme thinking is guided, influenced, shaped by these three energies: the energy of love, the energy of clarity, and the energy of peace. And I think the reason I'm here, and I think probably the reason many of us are here, after we get past just wanting to experience a little peace, just wanting to solve our problems better, we come to the point where we actually want to become like that. We also want every thought and every feeling and the way I look at a situation, the way I process what's happening in my world and what I offer, we want it to be influenced by these energies as well. So tonight, I think I've been asked to speak about this. Well, how do I draw power from that supreme source so that I can burn off all those layers that are blocking me from clarity of vision, blocking me from pure, loveful, peaceful thinking in all situations? So I'm going to share with you the 6. I'm sure there are countless, and I could have shrunk it to 3, but as I thought about it, I found there were 6 that were unique, one from another. And of course, they're all connected. And, take one and it will get you a long way. But I was just thinking about the ways that I find work for me. So the 6 ways to draw power, because we know in drawing power from the Supreme Source, our thinking changes, our feelings change, and that's partly why we want to do it. So let's begin with the 6. So we know here that every time I remember God, anytime I turn my attention upwards, even from this most precious and special action of putting my hands together in prayer or in namaste, I'm remembering God. And whenever I remember that higher energy, that higher source, I draw supreme power to me. It's just fixed. That's how it works. And I'm the one to open the channel. So anytime, and remembrance is the key. So I open the channel, I open the door through remembrance. Whenever I remember God, I draw supreme power to me. And we know we teach this in the meditation course. There's 3 simple steps. First, I tune out. I tune out from the world. I block out all of the stuff coming at me through external stimulus, and I tune in to the soul, behind the eyes, center of the brain, the thinking being that I am, the still, silent one, and then I tune up. Simple 3-step process, and this is Raja Yoga meditation. Tune out, tune in, tune up. Very simple. And that's really the first step. That's our method, and it works whether I'm driving, it works whether I'm in the grocery store, and it works when I'm sitting in front of a candle in a quiet place with gentle music. It's the same internal process. But not always do I feel that I'm drawing power. And this is why, for me, the first method to draw power, I call it the drip method. And I just simply need to stay under the faucet. So tune out, tune in, tune up. I make that effort every day as many times as I can. Sometimes it feels successful, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I feel an immediate flood of energy, of power, of benevolence, of love, of good feelings, of peace. And sometimes I feel nothing because I'm so caught in my own thinking, I'm so caught in my own worries that I don't feel anything. And this is why, for me, the first method, I call it the drip method, simply because I trust that drip and drop and drip and drop, one after another over time, eventually fills me up. So the many, many, many times that I tune out, tune in, and tune up, when I haven't felt a flood, a rush of pure energy coming into the soul, I know, because I've been at this for 23 years, which is a pretty short amount of time compared to Emmy Ben and many others senior to me. But even in the short 23 years, I have noticed, and I noticed it very quickly, that just by doing it, by consistently doing it, it adds up. And it adds up in such a way that it's like water getting around an obstacle. It takes just enough to finally push through. And I've noticed those things inside of me that aren't changing, or that I'm having trouble with, or that I'm worrying about. I've noticed that just day after day of consistent effort, suddenly that thing doesn't bother me anymore. And maybe it's a year later, maybe it's 2 years later, maybe it's 6 months. But somehow, unbeknownst to me, through the drip method, I was accumulating enough that it overflowed. And suddenly that issue was not an issue for me anymore. And that's how I know it's working, the drip method, is because you don't notice it day after day, but that's no reason to quit. In fact, if you use that as a reason to quit, then you turn off the faucet and there are no more drops. So even in those moments when I wasn't feeling it, I trusted that the energy was getting through, even in tiny droplet forms. And eventually, it all adds up until I begin to flow. The energy in me flows. And what happens then is I'm not bumping into that obstacle, I'm flowing around it. Many situations, we can all share, I'm sure, from the simplest things of worry about preparing for a session. And then suddenly one day you wake up and you realize, oh, I'm not even worried about this. I'm just showing up. Yes, I've done some thinking. Yes, I've made some PowerPoint slides, but my heart hasn't stopped. My pulse hasn't increased. My palms are not sweaty. I'm arriving joyously ready to be with a group. And this happened for me about 10 years ago. And I work in public speaking. I work in facilitation. I'm in front of groups all the time. And yet, when I came to share this knowledge in the Brahma Kumaris, I froze almost every single time for the first 13 years. I felt like I was going to be stoned. My heart increased. My palms sweated. It was terrifying. And I had to use so much courage, really. And I noticed about 10 years ago, I wasn't afraid anymore, like nothing. And I realized it's because I'd gathered enough of this pure energy that it washed away whatever that fear was. Just, it wasn't there anymore. And it came as a surprise to me because I was once again preparing myself. And so I live free of that now, which is fantastic. But this is true in many other things. So first method is that what I call the drip method. Second method, I'm calling it a surrendering struggle. Oh, this one's a big one. When we say the word surrender in spiritual circles, it's kind of like I've surrendered my whole life to God. I've surrendered everything, my money, my time, my body, my things, everything. But actually, I think surrender has a much more subtle meaning. And I actually think it's about surrendering struggle. We live in a world of polarities, and polarities pull and push all the time. So I'm going through life like this, feeling pulled by one thing, pulled by another thing. I should spend time with my family. Oh, now I have to spend time at work. Oh, but I need a little more time to do my physical exercise. Oh, but I didn't get enough time for meditation. But where is the sleep in that? And work wants me to spend extra time. We feel constantly push and pulled, right? We all know that feeling. But polarity and living inside of this push-pull thinking or lens is actually human, whereas a supreme thinking is a way to benefit all. Supreme thinking is above and beyond the push and pull. So I remember Sister Mohini had once said to us, anytime I feel myself pushing and pulling, the first thing to do is surrender. And I've told the story before. I don't know if I've told it here, but I went through a financial crisis at one point when I realized I was giving more and more of my time to service and a little less of my time to work, physical paid work. And it was wonderful service. I don't regret it for a moment. But in that time, what slipped, and as a consultant, if you step out of the circuit, then slowly you're not called anymore, because as a consultant, as an independent consultant, you're only as good as your last contract. So really your last contract is your marketing. If you're not doing it, then you fall out of that loop. So I fell out of that loop. Financial crisis. And I remember thinking at that time, Inside, definitely a struggle. Definitely, I have total faith in God, and yet I still need to work. I have total faith that what I've done was not foolhardy. I have total faith that I'm very responsible with money. I've never wasted it in this birth, so I'm not worried about that. But still inside of me, I was panic stricken. And the old thought that my security lies in my bank account. My security lies in my financial well-being. And unlike my security lies, there's benefit in this. And my security lies in my karma, in what I have done. So the push-pull inside of me was actually the faith that everything would be okay, that there would be benefit. There was benefit in this, and the worry about money. So I made a promise to God. I said, okay, I am not going to struggle. I am not going to go back and forth between defeat and victory. And, we experience praise, defamation. All of these are part of the back forth polarity. But my story with God was that I said, I will not struggle. I will not worry. I will not be anxious. At the first sign of panic inside, I will surrender. And I will do what needs to be done to get back in the market. I will upgrade the LinkedIn account. I will reach out to ex-clients. I will do all of the things that practically I need to do. But inside myself, I will not struggle. And that was a promise I made. And I said to God, okay, in the next 6 months, reveal something, move the mountain, work something out. My promise is I will not struggle. And of course, what happened in that time is that I did not struggle. Every time it arose, I rose above to get perspective, to sit inside the supreme lens, the supreme thinking, which has this level of perspective. It is so far away from my anxiety that every time I rose to that perspective, what happened is, I just kind of released into peace. And of course, by doing that, what happened is I wasn't all tense inside, and I could receive the power. I could receive the help. I could receive the clarity. I could receive the peaceful energy from God that allowed me to just carry on making moves. And of course, in that 6-month time period, that was my part of the equation. And a little bit, I suppose, like the hands of earlier, for me, the way to access, to receive power from the Supreme is I have to do my part. God is always there offering. But these 6 methods that I'm sharing today are the part that I play in this beautiful partnership, myself and God. So by saying I wouldn't struggle, by surrendering my mind at the first sign of struggle to God, what happened was I just relaxed. And then in my case, after the 6 months, enough had been accumulated in me that I was feeling actually quite a bit more confident, quite a bit more relaxed. And the contacts were made and a contract appeared, and well, the rest is history. We're working again. So that's method number 2, surrender. And we all struggle for different things, but the principle's the same. So Amy, I'm going to carry on for the next 15 minutes. Is that all right? With the next 4 of these before we do Q&A? Okay, great. So the next one, and I love this one, when I was thinking about supreme thinking is never about logistics. And my mind is very often full of logistics. So method number 3 is choose love over logistics. So Daddy Janky was the head of this organization for many, many years. And, when people studied the organization and looked at her leadership style, it could be summed up in one word: love. Anytime people were fussed about something, Daddy would just give them more love, and her slogan was definitely, where there is love, then there is no labor. And when I think of the amount of time I spend in logistics, that's actually labor. You know, the number of times Daddy would arrive at a situation and people would be stressed out about getting a program organized. Everybody was thinking about logistics, and Daddy would just arrive and give everybody love. And suddenly they would feel like, oh, it's easy. So on a day-to-day basis, so this is my third method. The only way I can receive power from the Supreme is if I choose love over logistics every time. So every time I find myself focused on logistics, I start getting activity conscious. I'm thinking about my to-do list. I'm making lists. I'm doing post-it notes. I've got Gantt charts, whatever our method is. We all have different methods. But whenever I find myself getting focused on task consciousness, logistics, in that moment is definitely when I become aware of it, which is our practice of just paying attention to ourselves. When I become aware of that, I stop and I accept love. I accept love from God. I accept love. Basically, I give myself a little bit of love, a little bit of self-care. But also, I recognize that everybody out there needs love. And in a way, if I'm focused on logistics, I begin to turn into a bit of a beggar for love. And I start using labor, using the energy of control, using methods that are not necessarily peaceful to get things done. So I start pushing. I start pushing against the drama. I start pushing against time. I start pushing against even people. And the opposite of love comes out of me. It's more like rush energy, more like control energy, force energy. And this is not the energy that allows me to access God. So the more love there is in a situation, the more the task gets done. So do I really believe that love wins over logistics every time? Of course logistics get done, but if they're done with love, then they get done quicker. And we all know this. Where there are relationships are full of love and good wishes, then the task gets accomplished quickly. Where there isn't a lot of love flowing as lubrication through the team, then every task takes longer. Every task has more bumps. Every task has more misunderstandings that need time to be clarified. So for myself, I know that I line myself up with the conduit of the supreme thinking. I link myself to the right vibration every time I choose love over logistics. When I find myself getting trapped, overthinking, doing, task conscious, then I know I need to stop and I need to give myself a little love, but in particular, I need to accept love from the Supreme in those moments and just get the reassurance I need that it'll all be okay. As soon as there's love inside of me, the logistics get done. But it's my choice to choose love over logistics in order to put myself in the right vibrational frequency to be receiving God's power. So that's the fourth. Well, that was the third, sorry. The fourth method to be receiving, drawing supreme power to the self is cleaning our hearts. I clean my heart every day. I'm a fan of the chart. I'm a fan of a nighttime review of myself, my day, my behaviors, my actions, my thoughts, my feelings throughout the day, my interactions. Where were they in line with my highest being, and when were they a bit off track? And we know this is sort of shows a picture of a heart bleeding here. But, we waste a lot of energy, or a lot of energy trapped in feelings And especially when the conscience isn't clean, my feelings kind of get the best of me throughout the day. So I do cleaning on a regular basis. And the cleaning I do on a nightly basis, or even throughout the day, just checking what's in my conscience, checking what's in my memory, my chit from the day, and just cleaning it. I consider that dusting. That's like daily dusting. And really, I get the surface level cleaning, but at least I'm not adding more dirt to my already somewhat heavy heart, because I've come to this life, I've come to this meditator life with lots of baggage, of what I've done prior to this time. So the daily dusting is important, but on a regular basis, we need to do a deep clean. So on a weekly basis, I do a much deeper sort of reflection and writing exercise, a conversation with God where I clean out. And on a monthly basis, I do an even deeper clean. And basically what I want that my heart, that the sitting room of my heart is so clean that I can invite God in for tea on a regular basis. And I wouldn't want to invite God into the sitting room of my heart if it was a mess. And basically, God's energy, pure divine power, will only fit in a clean space. We have a slogan here. I love it. We don't hear it often, but when we do hear it, I love it. I think it goes something like this: the milk of a lioness requires a golden vessel. So imagine how precious the milk of a lioness would be to get, and how dangerous it would be to get it. And so very precious entity, but would have to sit in a golden vessel, so precious. So in the same way, is my heart like a golden vessel, or is my heart so clean that I have made space to invite that divine power in? And I think of having God in my heart for tea. And actually, tea time for me every day, it was a tradition, began when I started with the Brahma Kumaris. I didn't even know tea time as a concept. And I know it's an old British hangover possibly, but going to India, we had tea time every day at 4 o'clock, and it became a sacred ritual for me. I love tea time. So I've continued that for 23 years. Tea time for me, everything stops. But what I do in tea time is I actually sit and I have a cup of tea with God. And it is an opportunity to chat, to check my heart, to reflect on my day, have a meaningful conversation with God. And it works. It's a golden opportunity to clean my heart. So the fourth method for me, the way to receive supreme power, is to make sure I've cleaned a space inside myself to receive it. So method number 4, cleaning my heart. On a regular basis, the daily dust, and then the weekly and monthly cleaning. And this, we all have our different methods. Here we've developed a series of questions that we ask ourselves, and we do it in a small group here. We share once a month. But the questions themselves are really good, because I wouldn't necessarily answer those types of questions on my daily dust. And so every month I try and ask deeper questions, and I've got them written so that it will be a little bit deeper clean. So the fifth one, and so we're getting a bit more, this one I think actually for me is the hardest of the others. Cleaning my heart's pretty easy. Choosing love over logistics, okay, that one's challenging. Surrendering was struggle, but this one I think is the hardest for me, and possibly for many of us. And this one is accept what is happening in and around you. So 2 aspects, what's happening. There's always a lot happening. And in a way, it's easy to think about what's happening around me, because that's quite obvious. you know, my family, my friends, the world news, my local community, the BK Center where I am. It's pretty obvious what's happening around me. And so accepting that. Now, that doesn't mean I have to like it, but just accept that that's what's happening. It's happening. I accept that this is happening. Very different than I like what's happening. And the problem is, because we don't like what's happening, we find it very difficult to accept. So I'll explore that in a moment. But that's one aspect, what's happening around me. The other, what's happening in me. All kinds of eruptions, all kinds of cleansing. You know, I'm about to clean up one of the deep closets here in the meditation center where I live. And it's the place where we store all of the program materials and everything over all the years. And we're pretty good about keeping it clean. And yet, every year we add more things. And so once a year, I get the courage. It takes me a lot of courage to clean a closet. I get the courage to take everything out and then put it all back. And of course, by taking it all out, I'm going to create a huge mess on the floor in the room where this closet is. And that's what happens inside ourselves as we begin to clean in meditation. Things come out and they have to get out, and there they are all over the floor in front of us. So I have to accept also what's happening in me. It doesn't mean that I like it, but if I accept that it's happening, then I can turn my face to the sun and draw God's energy into me. However, if I do not accept what's happening, if I get caught in resisting, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like even what's going on inside of me. If I allow myself to get caught in resistance, what happens is I build a wall, a great big wall around my inner self. And essentially, resistance is ego. And it creates a wall, and that wall will block the light from the source, and it will not reach me. I will not blossom. And you know, for me, it was one of the funniest things to see people I knew, some of my seniors who I knew were going through tricky things, and see them smiling, you know, with this cheery face. And I, in the early days, would think, how can they do that? Isn't that being dishonest? How can they be cheerful? I wondered, is that not being fake? But instead, I realized they have this trick. They have this method. They know how to maybe not like what's going on, but to accept it. And in that way, continue. You know, sunflowers are heliotropic. They turn their faces to the sun. So whatever direction the sun is going, they turn their faces. So by staying, you know, by accepting, I don't like it, it's trouble, I understand that, but I accept it's going on. By doing that, I can keep my face turned towards the sun. Otherwise, I turn my face to the problem. I turn my face to the difficulty, and I find myself resisting it. And then I wilt like this little sunflower here because I am blocking the light from reaching me by creating a wall of resistance. Don't know if that makes any sense to you, but this is method number 5. Don't create my own walls. Don't create brick walls that block the sun from getting to me. And to be thinking, you know, we think of ourselves here as becoming flowers. And it's a great metaphor. I love this metaphor. I'm becoming a flower. Of course, flowers draw the sun naturally without any effort into themselves. And they stand where they are and they just grow, you know, no matter what happens around them. So that's the 5th method, is to accept what is happening in and around me. Again, it doesn't mean I have to like it, but I accept that it's happening. And I know that the drip method, I just keep my face towards the sun, the drip method will fill me with enough power to shift the situation or to shift my reaction to it. One or the other is going to change. And isn't that great? One or the other is going to change the situation or my reaction to it. So that's number 5 method for how to draw. And I have one last, which is very short and sweet, actually. And this last one is make a special date with God every day. You know, when I was married, 2 little kids, and I think most couples know this when they become parents. One of the first thing that goes is time together. And the second thing that goes is any meaningful conversation about anything other than the children or logistics. And so, you know, most couples, at least in the West, it's pretty common phenomenon here in the West. Maybe it's true in the Philippines, I don't know, that people make date nights. And so once a week, they have a date night. And the purpose of date night is just to spend a little time together away from the children. And so they get someone to take care of the children and they go off and have a date night like they used to. And maybe they go out for a cup of coffee or they go for a walk in the park or they do something special. And it's great, except of course they spend their whole time talking about the children. But the point is they make a little special time. So given that God is my most special relationship, making a special date every day and making it special in the same way that every time I bring my hands together to pray, if I'm very intentional about this and I have the feeling of self meeting God, a union, a communion of the two, and I bring this to my heart and I look up, it's a very special moment. So am I making a special sacred time to meet God every day? And as you know, in the BKs, we start our day very early because, well, as busy people, that's about the only time we can have a special date with God. And so we do. We make a special date. And for me, you know, that's also tea time every day, special date with God. And then, of course, before we go to bed. But, you know, are you making a special date every day? And that's the last method of the 6 that I wanted to share with you today of how do we draw supreme power. And this is my part of the equation. God will just keep pumping out the power, but I'm the one that manages the control valve. I'm the one that manages how much or how little I get every day. And these are the 6 methods for me. I think the other question was, how does it help? And how do we know it's working? And I think much of this has been shared actually. But I just share these 4 pictures because for me, how it helps and how do I know, you know, what's the impact and how do I know it's working? I guess one of them is I have a lot more energy. I'm a lot lighter, I have a lot more energy. And I think the reason I have more energy is because I'm not just using my capacity anymore. My capacity is growing, but I am also drawing God's power, which gives me a greater capacity than I alone could have. So I have a lot more energy. I have a lot softer thinking, like this little girl with her flowers there, you know, thinking that maybe had some hard edges on it before. It's getting a lot softer, you know, less quick to judge, fewer hard emotions, you know, a little more benevolent. And I would say this sweet little fellow in the leaves there, this is what Canada looks like right now. People wearing jackets like that and bundles of leaves everywhere. Just more relaxed and more secure that I'm okay because I'm not drawing my security from the external world, but more internal. And then the 4th picture, happy, becoming happier and more loveful. So that's how we know it's making a difference, because we begin to feel this way. And it's a nice way to feel. And that commits us to the drip method. Keep at it. Om Shanti. So that's what I wanted to share with you today.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Sister Judy. May we
Emmy,
impose,
I can't hear you.
impose just a little bit more and invite you to give us a short meditation experience?
Now I can hear you. I think that was on my end, Em. Think.
Should I say it again?
Please, if you would.
Yeah, Sister Judy, we'd like to invite you to give us a short meditation experience before the question?
Sure. Absolutely. Let's
Okay.
do it. So we know how to go to God. So you can bring your hands together. You can just sit in silence, which is our form of prayer in the Brahma Kumaris. If you just take a deep breath in and center yourself in your body and relax. Come into the awareness behind the eyes, the silent being that I am. Just turn your face upwards to the supreme light, the supreme sun, and feel the warmth of the rays of the sun on your face. And visualize this white light entering your head and filling your mind with light. Pure, sweet, spiritual light, so that you feel lit inside, like a light bulb, like a lighthouse. And just feel that light washing through your mind, coloring your thoughts, making them light and beautiful. And that light flowing down through your body, to every cell in your body is nourished with light. So you can almost feel your toes tingle with light, your fingertips tingle with light. And your heart, you can feel it beating with light. And as the mind fills with light and love, this healing white light of love and peace in you, in your body, and out to the world. Visualize this light flowing to the world around you, where you're sitting, to your family, your home, your friends, your community, the Philippines, and the world. And just look down at the world together with the Supreme and shower this light together to our world. And return to the awareness of your body, the room you're in, and this beautiful conversation being hosted by the Philippines Brahma Kumaris. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Thank you, Sister Judy. Thank you again. We have 4 questions for you, but first, I would like to ask everyone to be ready to turn on your videos after the Q&A because we are going to have a picture taking with Sister Judy.
Oh, how wonderful. Wonderful, Emmy.
God will do this for us.
I like it. We're going to copy this now in Halifax.
It's fun, though. Okay, question number 1. We are, in the Raja Yoga meditation, we are invited to cultivate all relationships with God. Which of your relationships with God has worked the best for you?
Well, my first experience of God was as a beloved, actually. I had a wake-up drishti experience, a wake-up experience of lights on of God's presence, and it transported me beyond this world and beyond my life and beyond the little Judy that I was in my mind at that time. And actually, the experience was one of being God's lover, like beloved, like that God was my partner, and he adored me in the way that I, would adore, say, a partner I had fallen in love with. So basically, I fell in love with God, completely smitten, 100%. Gone was my heart. And so that relationship has remained for me. And when I found myself as a single mom with a couple of kids, God played the part of husband, partner, co-parent. So I would say that, and friend, and teacher, and wise guide. So if you mix all those together, those are the four probably that are most important for me.
Okay. Second question. Could you elaborate on the weekly and monthly clean? I would like to join in this in asking this question, because when you said the drip, daily would be dusting,
Dusting.
dusting, and when you said weekly and monthly, first image that came to mind was scrubbing. So,
Nice. That's good. Yeah.
so is that how it goes?
Yes. I find on a weekly basis, partly because when I go to bed at night, it's usually been a full day, and my energy for a deep clean is limited. It's probably not my freshest time to be doing a deep clean. So the dust is pretty good. At least it cleans the day, but on a weekly basis, I usually do it at 10:30 on a Sunday morning, or like, so after we've had our morning class here, I've gone for a good walk. I usually go for my walk with a question in my mind. And it's usually a deep clean question. Anything from, okay, what do I need to see from this week? What do I need to release? What is it I've learned this week? Something as simple as that, but just one question. And what works for me, it works when I move, the energy of my mind flows very well. So I will do that on a weekly basis and on a monthly basis, and then I'll come back and I'll write. On a monthly basis, we've been doing a retreat here where we develop questions for ourselves. We have the question in the morning by email, and then we have the whole day, and we come back with the question at night and share our churnings, our reflections. And usually an activity is given. So either a journaling activity or a collage or a color a mandala or something like that. But basically just creating a little extra time to focus in on a reflection question. We developed a series of questions that we thought were good ones, and we made a little journal. And so each page has a question on the top, and that you just open it randomly. That's your question for the week. And so, gathering good questions over time. Yeah. Well, in other words, making it an important practice.
So consistent.
Yeah, pretty consistent and enjoying it. I love it. So, I mean, if it was work, I wouldn't do it. But I find I get to a new level of clarity that I didn't have, and it's useful.
Okay. Third question, guilt, guilt, guilt about whatever, maybe a lapse in your practice, small and big guilts. They make me shy to communicate to God. How can I rise above this?
Yeah, guilt. I live in a Catholic part of the world. I wasn't raised Catholic, but everybody who comes to the center here has guilt as well. So very interesting. And I do too, but not to the degree I see. Well, I guess how I have related to my own guilt, I always think if I feel guilty about something, it's for a good reason. Mm-hmm. So maybe I can't see the reason right now. Maybe the reason is a bit hidden in my past. But what I'm feeling guilty about, I can see right now. So am I feeling guilty that I hurt somebody? Okay, clean my conscience, sort that out. be free. Am I feeling guilty that I haven't made the efforts that I think God wants me to make? If that's the type of guilt, if I'm feeling guilt about having made a mistake yesterday, well, then I just admit my mistake and I learn from it and I move on. But the big guilt is usually in relation to God and feeling like I can't show my face to you because I didn't do what you asked me to do, or I swore that I was going to be really good this month and do lots of meditation and I didn't, So we made a promise and we didn't fulfill it to God, but really it's to ourselves.
Mm.
So for me, in those moments, I have found, and my relationship with God is so honest. I really like it when God gives me honest feedback, and I get a lot of honest feedback. And I'd rather it be like that with a little bit of humor than praise me and flatter me and act like I'm all great when I know I'm not. So when I go to God and say, what do I need to see? I usually get it pretty clear, and it's often not flattering. And I can see it, but I also get so much love and beauty as well. But my point is that I'd rather take to God my honest heart. And instead of, I didn't do it, instead of beating myself, I didn't do it again. I said I would, and I didn't do it again. Or I'm trying to give this thing up, but I still really love it. I go to God and I say, I'm trying to give this thing up, but I really love it. And actually, I don't want to give it up because I love it so much. So you're going to have to help me with this. You're going to have to find a way to make me not love this anymore. And that's what I do with God. Instead of battling and said, I feel bad, I didn't give it up, I said I would, and going to God all sheepish and guilty, instead I think, no, this is a partnership. I love this thing. I don't want to give it up. Or I'm still too lazy to do this. I said I was going to meditate more, and then I didn't because I needed sleep. I don't go to God with excuses. I go to God with an honest expression, like, and I just felt too lazy. Again, you're going to have to help me get over this laziness. Right? And I mean, we have all rights to God. We have every right to say, I need help in this department. But I'm going to get help if I'm honest. I'm not going to get help if I go with an excuse, and I'm not going to get help if I go feeling bad about myself and beating myself up. God's love can't get to me if I'm doing that. So, but God's love can get to me if I go with an honest heart. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. He also has a part in the deal, right?
He does. And he's willing to help if I let him.
Okay. Question number 4. How do I make the drip method work with a full schedule daily and meetings back to back?
Oh, so many people have that life, don't they? It's so true. Such a good question, Emmy. Such a good question. I look at Sister Janty, and any of us who know Sister Janty know in Madhuban, she has a little slip of paper. It's probably this size, literally this size. She has a little slip of paper, and on it in pencil, she has, 8 a.m. and it'll say Judy, 8:15 Emmy, 8:30, Becky, 8:45 Arlene, whatever. And her whole entire day, and it's two-sided. And I have never met a person who has less time than Sister Janty, who has more back-to-back meetings than Sister Janty. And so I watch her, and I know that what she does is every time she looks at her piece of paper before a meeting begins, she remembers God. Right? So it's like, and every time you pick up the phone, you start associating your regular thing. Daddy Golzar told us once, every time you have a glass of water, remember God. Because you drink water all day, right? Every time I'm about to hit the send button on my email, I stop and I remember God, and I send God with my email, because I think God's energy could go to those people through my email. Right? So you get clever. You get clever with yourself in bringing God to all the things you have to do every day. That's a drip. Every one of those is a drip, and it adds up so quickly. As a manager, I tell many leaders, that I work with, they will say the same thing at work, and so I tell them, go into your office, close the door, turn your face away from your phone, and spend 5 minutes getting your head together about your day. But do it with God. Then turn back to your phone. Then turn back to your plan. Then open your door. Begin your day. Most people have to talk to people on their way in. So do your little helicopter leadership as you enter. Hello, everybody. Hello. Yeah, problem this, problem that. No problem. The minute you get to you up, close it. In other words, you have to sliver it in. If you want to, you will. There is no question it's possible. I know it's possible if you want to. So check yourself. How badly do you want to? If you want to, you'll find a way.
Oh, yeah. Last question before our picture taking. All these methods that you shared with us, Sister Judy, are they doable without committing yourself to a meditation practice? Or is it
Sorry, you mean, do I have to be a BK and dedicate myself to this life? Or
just a meditation practice?
Just a meditation practice. Well, I think everything I've described today is in fact a meditation practice. So if you're doing those 6 things, you are meditating.
You are.
Okay. Right? In a way. I think, I've been working a lot with resilience lately, and I met a group yesterday, a professional group, and they're coming back to work with their masks and their distancing, and it was very stressful. And we were doing a resilience program, and the starting point of resilience is just to bounce back. The next level of resilience is to flourish, right? But the final level is to become unshakable, what we call anti-fragile. And you can get from the first level to the second level. You can flourish, you can thrive, simply by reflecting on your life and what you've been through and gaining wisdom from everything you've done. But you cannot get to the next level of resilience without a practice. You need some kind of inner practice, and it can be regular prayer, it can be meditation, but you need an internal practice to get to that next level of resilience. So if you did these 6 things, you would be meditating. And if you want to go to that highest level, you definitely need an internal practice. Yes.
Oh, we got big drips tonight, Sister Judy, from you. I don't know how this next part is going to happen. The picture taking part. How does this happen? Maggie?
Oh, look, there's Vicky and Helen. Oh, so nice to see everybody.
So we just turn on the video and
yes. Just turn on
there's
the video.
Rose. Hello, Rose. Hello, Letty Ben. Oh, look. Oh, so nice to see everybody.
Okay.
So may we request everyone?
Is it happening now? Shall we smile now?
Emmy.
So Bea can, I think, somehow can signal us if the photo has been done or is still happening.
Sure. Silence.
Bea, are we done?
Yes, we're done. Sorry, hindi pala ako naka-speaker. Sorry, we're done.
Okay.
Oh, look. Oh, there's Maggie. Anan, bye. Oh, look, I can see everybody. Oh, wonderful.
Hi, Sister Judy.
Hello, Maggie. There's Felice. Look at everybody.
Sister Judy is a closet Philippine BK.
Oh, I am such a closet Filipino. That's true. I'm a Pinoy all the way. Ever since you made me dance in Philippines, what? Yes, my heart is there for sure.
Are we taking a whole album of pictures?
We're done na po.
Now done. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Judy. Thank you so much. Thank you to our
Oh,
friends for joining us tonight. And this is not the last time, right, Sister Judy? We can
oh,
come anytime to Manila.
oh, happily, with lots of love. Thank you so much for hosting. It was so enjoyable to be with you, to
Thank
see
you.
all of you.
And
Thank you very much.
we have another series of Thursday classes for November. We are going to show the schedule shortly. Oh, that's the picture. Uy, that's a group picture.
Ay, naku,
Oh,
naglabas.
there's more than one picture.
Sila.
Bea Ben, are we going to show can we show there? Next month, the theme will be self-care. Self-care that springs from within. There is no other kind of self-care. There you go. Oh, we have one coming up on Saturday too. Oh, 3 programs on Saturday. That's it for our friends and guests. We hope you will join us in the next programs consistently. Of course, we hope you enjoy these programs too. As Sister Judy said, very important ingredient, enjoyment. And we'd like to thank you again for spending an hour and a half with us on this last installment of the series on increasing your thought power in these trying times. Thank you so much. Om Shanti.